We knew that Donald and his enablers were coming for Social Security. We know this because they told us. Granted, they told us in the form of Project 2025, which Donald denied having anything to do with, but it became very clear still during the election that everybody involved in Project 2025 was going to be in his administration. So he was lying. I know. And now, thanks to Elon Musk and his so called Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, things are getting even worse. On February 18th, 2025, U.S. District Court Judge Tanya Chutkan declined to block temporarily Elon Musk and Doge from accessing federal data systems, despite efforts by Democratic state attorneys general to block said access. Check out this clip.
As he was speaking, we found out that a federal judge declined to temporarily block Elon Musk and Doge from accessing federal data. This was something and a ruling we were waiting for, a decision made by the judge, Tanya Chutkan. And this is a blow to a group of Democratic attorneys general who had been making the argument that Musk's role in the government violates the Constitution's appointments clause.
Sure. It is a blow to the Democratic attorneys general because they have a very good case. But it's really a blow to American democracy, to the separation of powers, to the authority of Congress, and to all of us. Because you cannot tell me that handing over access to an unelected, unvetted, unconfirmed sociopath isn't harming us. So I do not understand the reasoning behind Chutkan's ruling. I guess she needs to see just how bad things are going to get. We already know thousands of career civil servants have been fired without cause, which was heretofore unheard of and without precedent. People are having their data breached by people who do not intend to use said data in ways that are going to help us. And so much more is going wrong. Agencies have been gutted. Agencies are being dismantled before our very eyes, and people are already dying because of it. You cannot tell me, Judge Chutkan, that there is no visible, real harm here. Of course, even though it's clear that Musk is wielding his illegitimate, unconstitutional, unchecked power, still, again, the courts do not think it's an urgent issue to rein him in, or at the very least, make sure that he has to jump through certain hoops in order to convince us or demonstrate that he should be in this position, which, by the way, is impossible because the agency he leads is itself illegal and unconstitutional. I do not see how anybody could think that letting in an unhinged billionaire who's running around like a fledgling dictator just have access to our government systems without checks or balances is okay. There's literally nothing okay about that scenario. This week, Social Security Commissioner Michelle King resigned, and the reasoning for that resignation is also deeply troubling. She stepped down because Musk and Doge were trying to get their claws into Social Security records. Take a look.
Sources say Michelle King's resignation after 30 years of service came after she refused requests by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency, or Doge, to access Social Security information. The White House and Doge says they are trying to root out fraud, but advocacy groups say such access could let Doge potentially erase earnings records, making it impossible for people to collect their Social Security or Medicare benefits.
Oh, well, that sounds like harm to me. The Washington Post reported on February 15th that Musk's Doge service sought access to the IRS's data systems. More alarmingly, the IRS shares key data with the Social Security Administration, which has sensitive details about Americans' earnings, benefits, records, and more. To put this in perspective, Musk's minions were trying to gain control over a system that contains everything. Americans' earning records, their benefit histories, and even disability applicants' medical data. Just think what could happen if said data were to show up and get into the wrong hands. Do we seriously think, as the Trump regime insists, that this is all about protecting taxpayers? Yeah, of course, they're going to claim it's to cut fraud. But we all know what this is really about. It's about controlling everything, controlling knowledge, controlling information, controlling those data, and apparently also controlling Republicans in Congress. Because make no mistake, cutting fraud, cutting budgets, downsizing agencies, that is the job of the House of Representatives, or at least it used to be. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is out there dismissing any concerns that we may have as fear-mongering because she's awful. Take a look.
So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the Doge team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify three things. Number one, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number two, to identify payments that are going to deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number three, to protect the integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
Sure. She lies with such fluency at such a young age. Wow. I think she's a savant in that way. It's grotesque. Nothing she said is true. Nothing. The number of people erroneously receiving Social Security checks that do not belong to them is as vanishingly small as the number of people who vote fraudulently in this country. And yet, somehow, the Republicans have been able to make both of those things major talking points that people pay attention to. Those hardworking people who honestly earn their Social Security checks are going to be among those most hurt. By the way, they are not going to make any distinctions between allegedly fraudulent dead people who receive Social Security, there are none, or undocumented workers stealing our Social Security, there are none. Undocumented workers do not get Social Security. So basically, what they're going to do is convince enough people that that's what's going on. We are protecting your money from the scary dead people and the scary undocumented workers. They're not going to make any distinctions, though, just like they do not with the immigrants and undocumented workers. They are rounding up and sending to Guantanamo Bay. We were told it's only going to be the worst of the worst. And by the way, there was already a law for that. Nope. Now it's just anybody there round up who's brown. Before we dive in deeper, please take a second to like and share this video. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel. After you subscribe, click on the bell because that way you will be alerted every time new episodes drop. Elon Musk is not interested in efficiency, although he's claiming to be, at least not in the sense of the term that you and I understand. And he's pushing under the guise of being interested in it for a $2 trillion cut to federal spending, which is a mind-boggling sum of money unless you're him, because his net worth is approximately 25% of $2 trillion. Here's the kicker, though. Musk hasn't actually provided any details on about where or how he plans to make these cuts, because I guess the details are, for the lesser among us, and he can't be bothered with such things. Representative Becca Balin, a Democrat from Vermont, is not mincing her words. She's calling out the MAGA Republicans, or as I like to call them, the fascists, for trying to gut healthcare and Social Security to give tax cuts to billionaires and their wealthy donors. Take a look at this.
I can't make it any more clear to my constituents back home that they are trying to pass. All of this is about getting more money to the extremely wealthy in this country, while the rest of us are getting scraps. And I can't go along with that.
Right, because reconciliation is a precursor to
absolutely.
The tax cut.
That's the roadmap. That's the blueprint. We understand why they're doing this. It is to deliver a massive tax cut to the extremely wealthy.
Yes, and again, something we've known for about a decade now. Like, why would that have changed in the new Trump regime? He's been gunning for that since 2016. I guess one question is, and it's a perpetual question, why Republicans in Congress, in the House of Representatives, in the Senate are okay with this? Because, yes, their wealthy donors may get what they want, but their constituents are going to suffer in ways that are heretofore unimaginable, at least for those of us who did not live through the Depression. But it's always the same story, right? You tear down the safety net for the people who need it most. You give the rich people more tax breaks, using the benighted and debunked and idiotic theory called trickle-down economics that Ronald Reagan was so fond of, that these just beneficent wealthy people will, their extra largesse will trickle down to the lowly among us, and we will benefit from that enormously. That doesn't happen. That is a fantasy. And also, by the way, not only does it not happen, that's not what they want to have happen. They want the money for themselves. So, what's interesting is that they never call that fraud. They never call that welfare, which is what it is. Here's former Social Security Commissioner Martin O'Malley calling out Musk's fraudulent claims. Take a look.
This guy and his nitwit 19-year-olds that he that he sent in there to claim that, there's 200 million dead Americans that are receiving Social Security benefits, or that there's, a dozen people who are 150 years old. I mean, which would have meant, Chris, that they would have been 60 years old the day that FDR signed Social Security into being. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The real fraud happens when people call in and they try to switch accounts and take Mrs. Kaczynski's, hijack her benefits. That's where most of the fraud comes from. But the biggest problem is at Social Security, they're serving more people than ever every single day with staffing that House Republicans have reduced to a 50-year low. And now Donald Trump and co-president Elon Musk want to drive more people out of there, which is going to mean that the whole place it could very well collapse.
First of all, protect Mrs. Kaczynski at all costs. Okay, right? I like nitwits. I've been calling them minions, but nitwits makes them sound appropriately small and stupid, and immature. I like the way he's talking about this. And yeah, everything he said is true. Musk has no idea what he's talking about. The only thing I take issue with is that Musk is not co-president. Donald's not leading anything. I don't know what his role is other than just like counting his money and playing golf and threatening World War III. Musk is a fledgling dictator who's taking control. It's like a bloodless coup without any warning. You think, okay, there's going to be a coup. It's going to be somebody who actually has a position of power we know about. Surprise. Anyway, Musk has been posting his so-called findings, and by findings, I mean shit he made up, on what used to be a wonderful place to be, but is now just a machine for disinformation and propaganda, Twitter, since January 20th, claiming this is all part of Doge's transparency. That's a terrible way with words. Small problem. There is absolutely no evidence backing Musk's claims that he's spewing in his late night Twitter rants. And now, thanks to a DC judge ruling in favor of Doge's access to highly sensitive American citizens' information, the real question is, have the guardrails, at least in this instance, been completely removed? You know, I have my thoughts on that. I think if they have not been removed, they are fragile and falling over. And it's just sort of odd to me that people don't see this for what it is, because when have most billionaires ever cared about helping other people? Sure, they give lots of money to institutions that have a certain cachet, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art, so they can get their names on exhibits or what have you. But they also get massive tax breaks. That's why rich people give away their money, because they get tax breaks. They don't do it out of the goodness of their hearts, because they don't have any of that. Instead, they're constantly running around finding fraud when it comes to ordinary people or children who need to be fed or poor people who need health care. Tax loopholes, tax cuts for rich people, all good. Meanwhile, the White House is all over the place now, claiming that Musk has no actual authority over Doge, after, of course, spending months acting like he's the mastermind behind it. All of it's just a distraction, though. We know the truth. The only reason they are now walking back Musk's involvement, and by involvement, I mean to say he is running the show. He's running the show. He's installed his own people, also unelected, unconfirmed, unvetted, no FBI background checks, right? The only reason they're walking it back is to make a good appearance in front of the judge. And I'm having a hard time right now thinking that she didn't fall for it, which is exactly the opposite of what we needed to have happen. So yeah, Musk has no authority, just like the Trump regime has no idea what's going on. This is all just deflection. And if we know one thing about Donald, if we know anything about Donald, defense mechanisms are a specialty of his. All right, so how is MAGA responding to all of this? You'd think they'd be thrilled, right? Because Musk is out there fighting for taxpayers, saving people money, right? Yeah, think again. Actor Zachary Levi went on Fox to beg Musk to spare good, hardworking MAGA federal employees from Doge's cuts. Take a look.
And listen, Doge is complicated, right? Like, there are a lot of people that are very afraid right now because there are truly good working people that work for the government that are getting lost in the cracks. And we have got to do something about that. Please, Elon and all of your team and whatever needs to happen, please don't let everybody fall through the cracks as we are doing what is necessary, which is to get in there and like cut a cancer out, man. You know, sometimes they go in for cancer surgeries, doctors, and you lose some good, healthy tissue along in that. They don't want to do that, but it's a part of like extracting that darkness out of there. And right now, that's what's happening. But there are good people that voted for Donald Trump who are losing their job. And we got to make sure that we don't leave those folks behind.
The implications there are fascinating, right? Look, I mean, it's okay to cut out the cancerous Democrats who voted for Kamala Harris, who believe in democracy and the rule of law. But oh no, you're cutting out the fascist Republicans who support Donald Trump too. Please make it stop. Well, you know, you get what you vote for, right? Elections have consequences, I'm told. Also, I think it's worth pointing this out too. It is so deeply disturbing and wrong and crazy that anybody, even that guy, whoever he is appealing to Elon Musk. Think about that for a second and then stop thinking about it, because it's insane. So, yes, we get it. It's totally cool if it only hurts the Democrats or actually, because the vast majority of civil servants are nonpartisan. They don't want nonpartisan, so fuck them too, because they're not loyal to Donald Trump. They're loyal to the rule of law, the Constitution of the United States. How dare they? All right. Of course, remember multi-shirted Steve Bannon? He's been saying for a long time, burn it all down. He wants to tear down the federal government. He's a bit of an anarchist. He's suddenly sounding the alarm because too many MAGA voters rely on Medicaid, which, by the way, most of them don't realize is a government program. Oh, well. It turns out cutting the social safety net is a bit less popular when it affects your base. They are totally down with the Nazi salute and the anti-immigrant hatred and the LGBTQ plus cruelty. But man, hey, US government, get your hands off my Medicaid and Social Security, am I right? Who could have predicted? Yeah, all of us could have predicted this, but here's the kicker. While MAGA may be feeling the heat, this is affecting everybody. Just without any distinction between who's supported. I mean, obviously, in the terms of the civil service, it is definitely affecting Biden appointees and Democrats, or people perceived to be Democrats, much, much more. In fact, almost exclusively, although not necessarily. But in terms of, your average American citizen, it is going to affect all of us without prejudice. Even veterans aren't safe anymore, and some are doing something about it. Check this out.
We're mistreated, and like I said, we've been betrayed.
Former First Sergeant Nelson Feliz talked to us from his home in Loganville just hours after he says he got a notice of termination email. Quote, the agency finds, based on your performance, that you have not demonstrated that your further employment at the agency would be in the public interest.
Why? Why do this to us? We call this a Pearl Harbor.
Vets are protesting and making their voices heard on social media, saying things like they feel betrayed by the Doge regime. By Doge and the Trump regime, and they're signing pledges against Donald. What's Musk's brilliant plan here? To use AI to scan government databases for fraud, because that will end well. What is this, like the Terminator 2? Okay, yes, because I am perfectly comfortable, as we should all be, with trusting AI, which doesn't even know how many fingers human beings have, with Social Security and veterans benefits. Yeah, best idea ever. What could possibly go wrong other than everything? Here's a post from a female veteran on Reddit. Quote, I don't know who you voted for. This is disgusting. This is personal data, your social security number, address, disability, available to some foreign schmuck and his hacker boys. With all the attacks on minorities, hey, that's us. This is really concerning. Call your state representatives, call them as much as you can, unquote. Yes, we should all be doing that. And yes, veterans are a special class of people. There are not many people in the United States who have served their country and come back as veterans. Veterans have special benefits for the services they have provided to this country, which should be sacrosanct. The fact that the Republicans and Donald and Doge are going after veterans benefits also, though, shouldn't surprise us, because they don't care about anybody. They do not understand sacrifice or service. They honor nothing. And as for being betrayed, if you voted for Donald Trump, you voted for this. You cannot feel betrayed by somebody who, for decades now, has been telling you exactly who he is. And if you do, I'm so sorry to say this to you. You just haven't been paying attention. And here we are. I'm sure that trusting a billionaire with zero accountability and an AI system to track people's benefits will work out very well for him. But here's the thing. Cutting government spending sounds great in theory, But when you've got Elon Musk's Doge cutting without any real strategies, any authority, without any deep institutional knowledge about how these things work, it is a recipe for disaster. And that's a disaster that may well backfire on Donald at any moment.
First Republican president elected after the creation of Social Security, former General Dwight D. Eisenhower, who conquered Germany in World War II, said at the end of the second year of his presidency, 14 years after the first Social Security check was issued, in a letter to his brother, quote, should any political party attempt to abolish Social Security, unemployment insurance, and eliminate labor laws and farm programs, you would not hear of that party again in our political history. In that same letter, President Eisenhower referred to some rich right-wing Republicans who wanted to end Social Security in the 1950s. He called them a tiny splinter group and said, their number is negligible and they are stupid. They are stupid.
Yeah, they're really stupid. But they're also vile and malignant. But here's the truth. If Social Security benefits are cut, poverty rates for older Americans would increase and retirees would receive less money. By the way, those are two of the reasons Social Security was started in the first place. So we didn't have a lot of starving old people. These budget cuts could delay tax refunds, for example. People count on those, by the way. People who work diligently and do their taxes know that they have something to look forward to, and they factor it into their budget. Nope, they may not get those refunds, or they will not know when they will get them. Could be until November. Imagine millions of Americans waiting months for tax refunds. That's money they are owed, all because one kind of middlingly wealthy and one spectacularly wealthy guy don't want you to have the money because apparently they don't have enough. That's not a policy failure. This actually is, we're way beyond the realm of policy. This is entirely about destroying America and its economy. It is a nightmare. And yet they're doubling down because that's what Donald does. Hey, I'm really, really wrong. Let me be twice as wrong. And then let me be 3 times as wrong. And then 4 times as wrong. So according to news sources, 25 lawsuits have been already filed against Doge. A coalition of unions, tax and small business groups sued late Monday to block the Department of Government Efficiency from accessing personal taxpayer data at the IRS. Good. That's as it should be. However, in the meantime, and this is the thing that worries me, in the meantime, what are they getting away with? What data are they stealing? What information are they misusing? What harm are they doing? Judge Chutkan? Or I should say, what more harm are they doing? Because the consequences of this are already breathtaking. And if you're wondering why Donald is going on his rampage in Europe, one of the reasons, obviously, is because he's a wannabe dictator and he admires actual dictators, and he is deranged. But let's not discount the possibility that it is just to keep all of us from paying too much attention to this. Please take a second and like and share this video. It'd be awesome if you could subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, please follow us and give the show a 5-star rating because it really does help other people find our content. Thanks.